So this is the 2021 State Championships Masters Man 60 plus 1-2, and they've combined it with the 50 plus 1-2 guys. So it's definitely a fast field. I did this last year, got my head handed to me, and we'll see what goes on this year, but it's pretty much the same story. So there's only two in the 60 plus group, so at least I'm guaranteed a participation prize, but like, here we go. So the start's pretty fast here, and since I was in the 60 plus group, I figured I'd hang back. The hopes here were, to just kind of stay in contact. But I'm looking at the kind of wattage I was throwing out just to stay in contact here. I saw 300 to 500 watts there on that start. But I'm kind of hoping that people are going to settle in here, because that's my style. This is 4 laps of, as you can see the elevation profile, I think like 500 plus feet every lap, and super twisty. So at this point in the season, I really hadn't done any mountain bike racing. I raced on this course like earlier in the year in the reverse direction, and I only made it for like not even a full lap when some idiot plowed into me from behind and basically tacoed my rear wheel. It was so bad that yeah, it couldn't even be trued or anything. I couldn't ride the bike, so that was kind of like disappointing, because I would have gotten a participation prize at least in that one, because there were only like 2 or 3 of us in that group, and at that point I was actually in first place. So here we go, back to this race. So the 50 plus guys are starting to string this out, and my heart rate is like super high. Like, I know we're at altitude, it's like 8,000 feet, but in the 170s, that's like not sustainable for me. Now, that might not be totally reflective of the power I'm putting out, but I live at 5,000 feet, so I'm certain a lot of that is due to altitude, but it's still pretty fast. And I'm throwing out, 100, 200, sometimes 300 watts, kind of surgy here. So, and I know these climbs are steep. At this point, I've kind of like resigned myself to settle in and hope that I can bring these guys back later. But this was just a big surge, and they're just like going too hard. You can see them already. They're just coming back in the opposite direction. They are flying. And even if they're just going like a half an hour or half a mile an hour faster than me, it's still like pretty fast. And they're throwing out some big wattage. So this time I had a couple bikes I could have chosen to race this on. My Specialized Enduro or my Cannondale 2011 Ultimate. And I chose the Cannondale with the upgrade homebrew 650 setup, which allowed me to run some, like 2.0, 2.1 inch cross-country tires on it. But it's definitely like a soft tail. And it was actually giving me some issues in this race, like a lot of shifting issues that I hadn't realized that bike was actually having. And you can see like some of these points, like, and you can hear the grinding. It's like, what is going on there? Which I lost a lot of time, like each lap, for this reason. It was pretty frustrating, and I knew I was having these issues like during the race, and it wasn't until I went back and watched this that I realized like how bad this really affected my performance. I'd done the crooked gravel and net gravel races earlier in the season, and didn't really notice anything too much. But gravel races are totally different, and the steep pitches and grade that would require some shifting didn't really occur in that event or those events. And so in this event, I'm really noticing it. So at this point, as you can see, there's the leaders coming through after the little loop, and I think I'm in better contention than I was like the previous year at a course that was better suited for this bike. But even still, so I go into this corner, and the other 60 plus guy, Tony's like right behind me, and he goes down on that corner, and I'm like, okay, maybe I can get some advantage here, get a little gap, and maybe beat him. But I'm having like shifting issues like once again. So I come in on this little pitch, and it doesn't look like it's that much steeper, but I go to shift, and the bike is just like fighting me. I'm like, what is going on here? So, I mean, there's seconds just being lost, and this seems to happen like for the entire lap or 4 laps, and I was trying to figure this out. So at this point, kind of got it back up to speed, and my heart rate 166. You know, I could probably maintain that for the entire race pretty much, but that's pretty much normally on my limit. So there goes Anthony, who eventually wins this event, goes by me, super strong guy, super nice. So I figured, okay, I'll just kind of follow him and not be pressured and just see what he's got. So we come flying down this little downhill section. We see the leaders coming by already, so they're probably like a half a mile ahead of us. Or maybe that was the previous group. That's actually hard to tell. So we're starting to pick up a lot of speed through here, and at this point I noticed that Tony's bike is a lot faster. Those 6 wheels that I have are not that great. His 29ers, he's just rolling. He got a lot more traction into the corners. I was feeling my bike sliding around a little bit and was having to hit the brakes more than I would have liked to. But at this point, I'm like still in contention, so it's not that bad and it's early. Heart rate coming down into the upper 150, so I'm happy here, and I'm hoping that this is what the race is going to be like. And I'm going to be able to maybe go hard and get the heart rate down and do it over and over again. Yeah, this is it's very similar to the crit racing, and I'm kind of a punchy rider anyhow, so if I can get my heart rate under control, then life should be good. So here's the start of the big climb of the lap. And you can see, like, just coming out of that corner, you know, it was like 400 watts. And I'm kind of staying close to Tony at this point, but I'm having shifting issues. And I was finding myself having to choose a gear that wasn't optimum for me just to try to keep the thing from complaining. So middle note, I'm going to have to work on that bike, you know, check the chain, see what is going on with that, like lube up some, you know, bearings or whatever, but it just wasn't cool. Anyway, I'm looking at my, you know, I wasn't looking at the power at the time, but looking at it now, like 270, 250 climbing this is pretty good for me. So I know that I'm feeling okay. So this is the first time I've actually ridden this course in this direction, and riding it the other direction, and only once, and that was months ago, I didn't really remember the nuances of it. I just thought that it flowed really nicely in the other direction. So pushing on, look at that, you know, 200-300 watts, heart rate now into the 170s. And this is where I realized, you know, I need to let Tony go. But I'm having all these shifting issues. And as I stated before, I'm like, damn, you know, this is awful. At the time, like I said, I knew it was bad, you know, but I didn't realize that it was really causing me this much of an issue. This kind of sucks, so this is definitely going to take care of that. So we're climbing, making some decent wattage, you know, look at that, 300, you know, 50 watts and stuff coming up through here, you know, in this little punchy section. So this is a pretty challenging climb. It was actually, I expected it to be kind of longer than this, like the whole thing, but I was happy that it wasn't too horrible, that it's actually a raceable course. So heart rate in the 170s, I'm still trying to keep Tony in sight, and my hope is that he's not that strong and he's going to burn out on the first lap, and that I'm going to just finally have to settle into my rhythm, well, at least whatever rhythm I can get given all the gear issues I have. Heavy sigh. So the climbing continues and it continues, and I can see Tony up the road, little yellow jersey, nice and bright, love that, it's a great target, slowly inching away from me, you know, and I'm guessing maybe 0.2 mile an hour faster, which, you know, I might be able to get out of a bike that had better rolling resistance and it wasn't like giving me all these shifting problems. In any case, at the time I thought, okay, that this is only a minor issue and I should be like, okay, and that most of the time I wasn't losing too much because the power numbers were good, but I can probably unequivocally state at this point, I have probably lost 15 to 20 seconds just so far in this event from the shifting issues that I've had. So this is when I'm starting to settle in, heart rate in the 160s, getting a first look at the course, and it's a little rocky. I kind of wish I'd taken the Insta 360 camera on this one, but I've been having issues. I figured I'd take the GoPro and capture some footage because it's been reliable for the most part. So the video never really shows it as being as chunky as it is, and at this point it really isn't. But that soft tail and those smaller tires, this was a little bit challenging, especially coming up to this little section here with it's not quite a rock garden, but it's kind of rocky, and you see as the bike's jumping around. So there's a little punchy section through here. Speed is reasonable, and I'm just kind of pedal through and keep my rhythm. I can hear myself shifting in all these little switchback corners. Like I was hoping to like just shift down and like or up and then stand up in those. The bike was just like not. Yeah, This is abysmal. Not doing what it should have been done. Yeah. This is much worse than I had remembered that it being. But at the time it was like, you know, it is what it is. Yeah, listen to that. It's just yeah, we're not going to race that bike again until we get that thing fixed. You know, the debate would have been, should I have taken the enduro bike versus this one? And, you know, in hindsight now, I don't know. It definitely would have been faster on some of the sections, and it would have rolled over these rocky pieces a lot better. And it would have been a much funner bike to actually ride too. So maybe if I'm just looking for fun. So as you can see, you know, more shifting issues, etc., etc. Little rocky, little step-up sections here. At least all of it's like rideable. And it's kind of cool. Yeah, there were people like throughout the course kind of like cheering me on. And even though I think at this point I'm really like dead last, which is okay, because I was last year second to last, and the guy who was behind me last year wasn't here this year. I was really hoping to do better, and I knew how fast the 1-2 guys were, and you know, stepping up into a new level because I was a Cat 3 like maybe 2 years ago, and I upgraded to Cat 2 after like medaling in the Cat 3 states with the silver, and I thought that was the honorable thing to do, is to upgrade because the races are longer. But it's a whole different world. Like I can recall, the shifting. I can recall when I was back in New Jersey and I was racing like sport, and I was doing pretty well, and upgraded to expert. That was like a slap in the face. It was like there's a big, huge dichotomy between the sport and the expert guys. So this is similar here. And I think about like my Zwift performances. I'm like a C rider, like max like 3.1 watts per kilogram, and I know what the B and the A riders are, and I suspect that like a lot of these 1s and 2s, that's what they are. So it's to be expected. More shifting issues. Yeah, in fact, this is probably painful for you guys to watch. It's even more painful for me to watch. It's a good thing during the initial editing and color grading and all that of this is that it wasn't you know, it wasn't that bad, because unlike with the 360 camera I have to change angles. Like with the GoPro you just point it and get what you get, and it's just a matter of, you know, spinning in the start lap. But yeah, totally painful. So top of the climb, and we are rocking and rolling. Quite pleasant. Heart rate still up there. And I'm still hoping that at this point, like, Tony's like full of hubris or something, and that I'm gonna pull him back. And at points here, I could still like see him on like the first lap. He's not like in shadow here, and this section like loops back. You can see in the upper left there where got the course map, and I think it was for the first 2 laps I would like catch glimpses of him, and I'm like, okay, this is not horrible. But yeah, he was just like pulling away, maybe as he got warmed up and got into his rhythm. Like on some of these sections, my bike definitely was not rolling as fast as I would have liked it. And not knowing it, I didn't want to push it that much, because there's a high penalty for failure. hoping to recover here, and down we go. You know, I noticed, like, and I didn't have this on video, but on, I think, lap 3 for me, like, the single speed and pro guys passed me through some of this stuff, and then I had realized how fast you can really flow this stuff. And I'm realizing that I should have pushed it, or could have pushed it a lot higher, faster, but I kind of wanted to recover a little bit and didn't really want to take too many risks. But those guys were just flying. So that just tells me I was like leaving watts on the table, because it wouldn't have taken that much to just get a little more speed out of it. Even though at the time here, I didn't think I was doing that badly. You know, I could blame it on some of the shifting issues that didn't give me the optimum gears, and I just kind of kept it where it was. But, you know, it is what it is. More descent here, and it's flowing fairly well. Still, I can hear the shifting. Yeah, this is super frustrating. Actually having to watch this is painful. And I'm thinking maybe I should even post it, but I took the time to carry the extra grams and make this, so hopefully this will help somebody out who's never like seen this course before and wants to know what riding it's like. It's actually a super fun course. Up there you can see some of the other riders like through the trees there. They're probably a mile ahead of me by now because they're on the upslope. Yeah, this would have been kind of fun to be in contention, you know. And, you know, at some point, I'm thinking to myself, am I that flipping slow? But looking at the times of the Cat 3, 50 and 60 plus guys, yeah, I would have done really well in the Cat 3, so I'm kind of in that Zugzwang like position of cycling is not my life, and I only do so many intervals and so much training. That's an excuse, but my skill set and pushing it on some of these descents would definitely have really helped me here. Yeah, more painful shifting issues. Yeah, man, yeah. As we start to climb a little bit, you know, as far as like mountain bike race courses, this is a pretty good one. I'm not all that happy about like some of the places, some of the trees and all that, because the penalty for failure is high if you push it. Like here's one of these little sections where you can like stand up, and here I was just trying to shift and save my legs. I should have just stood up or whatever, and if those gears were working right, I would have went flying up here a lot faster. Yeah, this is almost enough to justify like going out and like getting a better hardtail. But since I don't race that much, I can't justify $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 on a bike I'm only going to use a couple times. That will in fact be out of date in like 5 or 6 years. So I guess my plan here is to seriously either yeah, buy some new components and get this stuff working correctly, figure out like what is the deal here. I hope it's just a chain or something. But the way the gears were grinding, it was just like there was something going on where it almost felt like they were getting caught. Chain was getting caught in between the cog set, and it was just a weird feeling. And it was just like it was gonna just jam up and it was gonna rip the derailleur off the bike. And that was like part of my thinking here. So if you DNF, you don't even get your participation prize, as I found out in that first race in the year where you know, they call the podiums and it's like I DNF'd, so I don't get anything. Now, had I told them that the guy tackled my wheel, you know, they may have given me like, some sympathy there and maybe some swag, if not the medal. But I didn't want to go there. Don't really need the swag. But I was kind of super disappointed that on that day. Although that being said, I was really super tired during that event too, because I had like ridden hard the first couple of days before that, and I was like super tired. And it wasn't until the day before when my buddy Brent said, "Hey, you want to go race? I'll go with you." And I was like, really? But I was always tired. So anyway, here's some of these nice trees, and some of the guys on the third lap, I mean, they were just going lickety split through this stuff. And it's like the whole 4-minute mile thing. Once you see how fast people can go through there, you know that you could go a lot faster here. So next time that will be my goal. As you can see, my heart rate's in the 150s. I've kind of resigned myself, and we are kind of descending, but you can't really push it that hard on descents. So clearly, you know, the mountain bike racing is so much different than the road bike racing, because you need like these technical skills to be able to descend, and you've got to be able and willing to like take risks on these sections, which frankly, I'm not really, you know, willing to take a lot of risks. So there's a really tight switchback. Like, the film doesn't actually show how steep and tight some of these switchbacks are. And I remember them on doing the reverse direction. I mean, people were having issues like just putting enough power in the later laps to make it up some of them, because it was a little bit loose, and you could see that someone would have to step off, or if it was a big chain, right, and then people slow down to make it 4 or 5 riders back, they are like off the bike because they're not able to balance. It's just faster to run than to try to stay up there. So heading through more of the aspens, and you can see like that we've got what, almost 5,000 feet of vertical already on this lap, 478 according to the telemetry there. Heart rate back up, so I'm still, you know, at this point I'm starting to find my rhythm of what I would be able to pretty much effort wise, I think, hold for the 4 laps. And at this point I can see like Tony is like totally checked out. You know, I did end up speaking with him after the race, and he's like really a badass. I mean, Breck 100 stuff, single speed, you know, endurance stuff, much more hardcore than I am. And perhaps maybe if I had known that early on, I would have been like not chasing ghosts, but you never know. And that's one of these things, right? When you only do a couple of races a year, you don't really know who these people are, and you don't even know like where you are in the great scheme of things. Which is what happened last year, you know, doing the 1-2 state championships. You get these people from all over. You've never seen them before. You don't know what they're capable of, and if you've never raced, what you're capable of, whether it's worth blowing up or not. But that's what kind of makes it exciting. I'm hoping now that, well, COVID is sort of getting under wraps. The whole Delta thing is blowing up again. And I'm certain there's going to be other variants after that, that next year I'll at least get 3 or 4 races in. You know, I was hoping to do Battle of the Bear, Ridgeline Rampage, which I've always done like fairly well at. And it's usually not all the badasses, you know, they show up for like the state championship. It's like normal people. But we'll see. And definitely, you know, once you see where people are, you know whether you need to step up your game, where you're weak, and if your bike is working correctly to fix that. Yeah, so you're probably wondering, you know, why it's like I said, I race Ned Gravel, but I don't take this bike out mountain biking because basically it's just not fun to race. So I've got a Specialized 2014 Specialized Enduro Expert Carbon, which fairly light bike if it's equipped so for cross-country racing, but I've got like the Enduro tires on it or whatever, and that's what I take out most of the time, and that thing shifts flawlessly and it's great. And this Cannondale kind of just sits there until I need it to do something. More shifting issues. Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm gonna take that bike out, the Cannondale, get it dialed in for next year, or maybe just race the Enduro bike, which it just seems weird, right? You're racing an Enduro bike in a cross-country race, but it's super comfortable, and with like a set of ZTR Crest wheels, it's not that bad. It's like 25-26 pounds, so and it climbs fairly well, much better than the stock Specialized. You know, I had Push Industries work their magic on the the shock, and what a difference. I mean, when I first got that thing, it pogoed like, well, like a pogo stick. It was awful, and I wondered, whether I should have purchased that thing. But a trip to push, when I got the thing back, I was just like, OMG. The valving changes that they performed on that was like wonderful. And so, I raced the enduro bike now. Raced it in the Firecracker 50, at least half of it, and it was wonderful. And in those like gnarly sections in that race, I was pleased to have 6 inches of travel, and it was just a joy to go a ramming and a thumping, through the descents. Ooh, I can hear my brake scraping. Yeah, I think I need to replace the brakes on this thing too. I was gonna do it right before the event, because the brake shoes were like, they're not long for this earth, but when I put the new shoes in, there was too much drag. So I'm like, oh, it's gonna take a while to like this. I don't want to bleed this and get everything set up. I'll just put the old ones back in and hope I don't have to brake too much. But I can definitely hear it like on the video. So we're getting close to the end of the first lap. More shifting problems, obviously. Yeah, heart rate's still up there though, and we are able to get it back up to speed and stuff. But yeah, maybe, I don't know, a minute lost in this event due to this crap. Yeah, and of course I have 3 more laps of this after this, right? So, yeah, maybe that'll be my excuse for this event. Although, even if it had shifted like smoothly, I don't know how much better I would have been, as far as places. But my times would have certainly been better. Yeah. Yeah, and definitely the flow through some of these sections where I could have just got up and jammed. Yeah, this 5 mile an hour, just waiting for it to shift stuff, without making all kinds of horrible noises. Yeah. Yeah, it's embarrassing. Yeah, I'm embarrassed I even took the bike out there like this. Yeah. So, anyhow, fun course. Getting close to the end of the first lap. See one of the course marshals up there making certain that people are not cutting the course, which with all those like twisties and turns and stuff is easy to do. I could see somebody doing that if they were like all narcissistic and wanted their little prize. Although with Strava now, assuming everybody here in this race is using Strava, and I'll make that assumption, you could easily check the data, and if somebody said, oh, my computer wasn't working, yeah, DQ'd, dude. We don't believe any of that. So, climbing. The last little climb before we're exited. So it looks like the total ascent for that lap was like 585 feet. And we're at like 4.9 miles. So, yeah. Now time to descend and like see where everybody is on the first lap. At least there's enough switchy corners up here near the start finish that I can at least get a glimpse of the competition and see how things are. Fast little flowy section through here. I hear the grinding of the brakes. Yeah, gotta put that on my list. Beautiful day though until the 4th lap when it started to actually rain. And the official's like, hey, there's a little bit of rain and lightning, do you want to continue? And I'm thinking to myself, if I say no here, that means a DNF. That means no participation prize. That means no hardware. That means no swag. That means no points. And I'm like, the mental note is like, shit, lightning's gonna have to strike my ass down before, or my chain's gonna break before I DNF another race here. Yeah, I'm one of those ride or die kind of like, it's got to be pretty bad before I DNF something. I mean, something better break. In the old days, I remember doing a race. It was like one of my first expert races back in the day or something, and I broke a derailleur, my front derailleur. So I did the whole thing in like, it was stuck in I think the little ring. and I came in dead last or whatever, but I was like not gonna DNF this thing. I was gonna just ride, 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 ride. So coming back towards the start finish line area, looking around to see if I could see anybody, and I don't see anybody. As far as like competitors or whatever. Yeah, I think if I had like produced more video instead of just the first lap here, I would have seen like Tony like going up the other side there. I'm pretty certain I did. But anyway, a good time was had by all. That's the first lap. Hope you enjoyed it. Peace.